I'm Sam Spinrad here with Jeff Stern after the 2024 Dipsea race to talk about how it went this year and to learn more about Jeff, who's been a top competitor and black shirt nabber for a few years now. Jeff, could you tell folks about your running background and what got you interested in the Dipsea?
Sure. Thanks for the nice introduction and having me on, Sam. I first learned about the Dipsea when I was actually working in San Francisco for the San Francisco Giants back in 2009. And I was 21 or 22, I think. And I was so surprised that I had never actually heard about the Dipsea, even though I had grown up only a mile from the start of the race. I was actually maybe slightly disappointed, you could say. I wish I had learned about it sooner because I think I would have done it as a kid, like some of my friends, like Gus Gibbs, have done. He's done it for a long, long time, and he was actually a childhood friend. Sometimes I poke fun at him. I'm like, man, why didn't you ever tell me about the Dipsea? You knew I was kind of almost as fast as you. So yeah, I found out about it in 2009, and I was actually running a bunch of stadiums in the city at the AT&T Park, the home of the San Francisco Giants, and it really is what got me into running, was learning about the race and having those stadiums being so close in proximity to where I was working. I felt like it was perfect training for the steps of the Dipsea. Maybe not quite as long, but when you added them up, I was definitely doing more steps than the race has. And yeah, I put my application in that spring and got in, and the rest is history. Now I've done the race 16 times now, 16 straight years. I like to say it's the only streak I care about in life, more or less, from an athletic perspective, I guess I should say. And yeah, it was definitely a special thing for me to learn about. I think it helped me get into cycling a lot, actually, in an interesting way. Even though I didn't focus on the Dipsea for the first, I guess, 9, 8 years I was doing it, it really helped launch me just into kind of a post collegiate athletic career, because I did not run in high school. I didn't run in college. I think the last formal running I did was in middle school at Mill Valley Middle School back when I was 12 or 13 years old. But yeah, so I kind of got into running a little bit later in life, but really love it, and love the history of the race, obviously, like you do, and so many people do. And definitely feel a special connection having grown up here. And my mom actually grew up in Mill Valley, and my grandfather built a house here. So it's really an important event on the calendar every year for the foreseeable future.
That's awesome. And yeah, it's really interesting how I think that's a common occurrence for many runners living close to fantastic courses and or races and sometimes never hearing about them until they meet the right people or talk to the right people. Do you remember your first time over the course in 2009?
Yeah, one of the people that I was working with had done it as a kid. He went to Redwood, and he was kind of a childhood runner, and I think Dipsea scholarship winner maybe at one point when he was a teenager. And he got really excited that I hadn't heard about it, and that I got excited, and then that I finally got in a couple months later. And so he was very gung ho about taking me out there to show me all the shortcuts. And back then the doors were open and a couple other things. So I think that was probably the first time I went with my friend Cameron. And yeah, it was just all foreign to me. And from there on, I just spent more time on the course and learning the ins and outs, and, not just the shortcuts, but like how to strategically pace yourself so that you have enough effort for the various sections, cardiac and insult and everything. And then I'm fairly certain that I ran the practice Dipsea that year. It was still going on, put on by the Dolphin South End runners. And that was really cool because you got a little sampler of a race on the Dipsea course. It started, I believe, at Old Mill Park, and obviously didn't go down the closed road that is only open on race days, but still very similar. not handicapped. I believe everyone started together, so it was just whatever your actual time was. But it was still good to get like a taste for what it felt like to run up the stairs and down to Muir Woods and all of that. And I don't know. I can't say that I mean, it set me up for success in the first year that I did it, in and of the fact that I qualified for invitational, but I wasn't like a perennial black shirter from day one. I think I've had to work hard. Not that, I mean, everyone works hard, but I worked hard to get to where I'm at, where I'm able to get a black shirt now 6 years in a row.
Yeah, yeah. No, the practice Dipsea was a great warm up, and same with the salmon runs. It's a shame some of those traditions died, but fortunately not as much of the specific Dipsea traditions, more the kind of stuff on the peripheral of the Dipsea. But yeah, what do you remember? What year was your first black shirt,
2018.
and
I
what did you get that year,
I
or
got
how
18.
did that year? Sorry.
Yeah. I got 18th that year, and the year prior I had gotten 50th place, so I could really like taste it, because coming over cardiac is normally the first time you really get a realistic place of where you're at in terms of the race for people that start later, closer to scratch. And I think I probably came over and it was definitely already in the top 100 or even maybe even 75. So I thought, oh wow, maybe I could get a black shirt. And then 50 is a nice round number and pretty close to black shirts. So I remember being really excited in 2017, thinking I'm really close. And I kind of flipped a switch later that year and focused a lot more on running, and ran like more miles in the time from the end of Dipsea 2017 to Dipsea 2018 than I had, like, just in that 12-month period, than I had probably in the entire 10 years prior, if that makes sense. So I really got into running and put all my energy into getting that black shirt. And I just remember coming over the top, and I'm pretty sure I was already in the black shirts, which, to hear, whoever says it, like, 29 or 30, was like, wow, I know no one is catching me because I'm basically a scratch runner, and every person I pass is just further into the black shirts. So I just remember being so fun, and I was actually running with a friend at the time who had never gotten a black shirt, and we were like kind of neck and neck, like seesawing back and forth. And I remember like hooting and hollering going down steep ravine and the swoop. And yeah, I mean, just a dream realized, and to know you have it, just as long as you don't take any epic catastrophic falls, was pretty special. And I think that was maybe my ninth Dipsea or 10th. I don't know the exact number. So I had obviously done it a handful of years before I had gotten one. But yeah, 2018 was super special that first year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then, you've climbed a bit since then. I assume helped at least by the 1 minute adjustment of the men's handicaps. That's given our age groups a slightly bigger advantage than before. But 11, I think this is your second year in a row at 11th, right?
Yeah, yeah. Last year I was 11th, and this year I was 11th again. So I've really had my eye on the top 10 the last few years, and coming up a little bit short, but I think I'm poised for a big jump, kind of like my teammate Dominic had this year. We had been training all year long, and we're putting up very similar splits all over the course, and I was really stoked that he had, an amazing day, and a little bummed I couldn't have been there. We talked about it after the race. I was like, man, if we had been there together, like working together, how we had been on all our practice runs on Tuesdays and throughout the year, maybe we could have gotten like third and fourth or something together. But yeah, super stoked for him, and just continues to light my fire, right, for myself in future years, knowing that even though I haven't quite cracked that single digits yet, I know when I do make that jump, it should be a big one.
Yeah, that's really exciting. And I saw your sprint at the end, but let's go back to the beginning. Can you walk me through how the race day went from the beginning?
Yeah, I was really excited, and I took it out very hot. I think everyone in my group would tell you that I was off the front very quickly down Throckmorton, which in hindsight is not always the best choice for me. And I think it was probably the most the biggest mistake I made on the day was in the first couple of minutes, but it's hard with all the energy and all the different groups starting and everything, to bottle that up and stay contained. But yeah, we went out pretty hard and pushed the stairs. I felt like it was fairly reasonable clip. Weren't running all of them. We were running most of them, and then hiking the steeper sections. Like the very top where they turn to stone on the flight one, and then the really steep middle section of flight two, and we came over the third flight and got on to the road and Walsh Drive, and Alex and Dominic were there, and we were kind of pushing the pace pretty well up Walsh Drive. That's where we tend to pass a lot of people. It opens up a little bit there, and it feels good to run. I felt there, I was like, you went too hard in the beginning already. The thought crossed my mind. I just didn't. I felt that feeling in the legs. So I was trying to work through that, and both Alex and Dominic got away from me a little bit at that point. I think Alex went over um, Highway 1, or sorry, Panoramic first ahead of Dominic, and then I was right behind him. All within like 5 to 10 seconds, and then that section, that stair section down into Muir Woods Road is just, I don't know. It's always crowded. I always feel like I could break an ankle at any point in that section, just with how crowded it is. And yeah, but we made it through all right and got onto the road. And Alex had been having some hamstring issues in the last week, so his downs were not good. And Dominic was flying on the down, and I was running decently well, but not as well as him. And so we both passed Alex, and came into, and stop me if this is too much play by play, but I'm just walking
No,
you
no,
through.
it's really interesting to hear
Okay.
like the fastest guys battling up front. So yeah, I know that Alex pretty quickly realized he wasn't going to be able to
Yeah.
hang in there.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have the downs. Unfortunately, he was a fraction of himself, which was a bummer for sure, because he was super fit too. I mean, I think he could have, him and Don, I mean, all three of us could have had, amazing days and run clock times in the 49s or 48s for sure. So it was super bummer to see him have a little bit of a hampering. But yeah, and then Dom hit the down really hard, and he got into suicide quick and was out of sight, honestly. And I was a little bit ahead of Alex. And then kind of uneventful. The suicide is weird in the last couple of years, that a tree fell down and there's this weird kind of jig, like you don't just launch into it anymore. So it seems a lot slower than maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And not even just the traffic, just like the way you enter it is different, has
Yeah.
changed. So that's a little bit slower than I would like. I would like to just kind of like send it into it, but you can't really do that anymore. Um, but yeah, rather uneventful. Got into Muir Woods and across the parking lot and across the bridge. And, Dynamite was as crowded as ever. People were kind of begrudgingly moving. I felt like, it seemed harder than normal. Granted, I'd wished I was with, I think it helps for the faster guys to have a little bit of a train there. And Dominic was probably 10 or 15 seconds ahead of me. So there was like some separation where, like, once someone moves over, they quickly move back over. So it was a little discombobulated. I remember passing Mark McManus, who's a Pelican Inn teammate of mine and great friend, right before the stairs at the top of Dynamite. And he said, like, pump those arms, which is always a good reminder, that it's not just your legs that are moving you uphill. And then he shouted, like, top 10 runners coming through, which was like actually very helpful and like really nice of him to say. And I felt kind of disappointed I was unable to realize his hopes for us. But um, yeah, and then just the more you get up Dynamite, it starts to clear. And then once you kind of get to where people start choosing, I feel like a lot of people choose, whether intentionally or inadvertently, to go on Deer Park. It just helps to open things up a little bit. Um, and that's when I first noticed that. I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of a hot day. Like, it was not a cool day at all. Like,
No.
Hog's Back is when it really, there's no shade. And it was definitely warm and feeling that a little bit. And then again, realizing like, yeah, I probably went a little too hard in the beginning and on the stairs, because I feel personally like where I can improve the most is on the climb from the creek to cardiac, which is what I've been working on most of the year, and had run like my fastest PRs and was just feeling really confident, but I just didn't feel like I had the legs to do that. And I mean, the only reasonable explanation is that I used the legs too early, basically. So I kind of was slogging a little bit and definitely not moving. A little bit after halfway rock, Alex caught back up to me and passed me. So he was doing good on the ups, and he gave me some encouraging words, and I tried to hang with him. But if you've ever run behind Alex, he just bounces uphill. He's just like a inhuman in that sense. So he slowly moved away from me, and then it was actually a lot later than I actually thought, based on how I was feeling. I'm like, man, Eddie is going to come up on me at any moment now. And wasn't until after the new stairs that they've constructed in the rainforest, after the big log that's on your right hand side.
Yeah.
It was just after there that Eddie passed me. So, I guess 3.5 miles into the race approximately. And he was moving really well. And I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'm going with him. That's always a pipe dream, is like, when Eddie catches you, you go with him. And it's like, yeah, that's not happening this year for sure. Maybe another year. So I was definitely not in a good mental place, I think, at that point. I'm like, okay, my two teammates are gone. Eddie just passed me, and I feel like absolute garbage. And I know I'm running slower than I wanted to. So it was a little demoralizing. I'll be honest, I like hiked a little bit of the last section of cardiac, which I don't normally do. I was just trying to like get ready for running the descent fast, which I think is one of my strengths. And I came over the top, I think exactly in 35th or maybe even 36th. So not the highest I've ever come over in the top. I think I've come over in the top 30 before, maybe even like mid 20s. Last year I ran a PR time, and I think I was somewhere in the 20s. Um, and then yeah, just started trying to get the legs back and running downhill. And I think everyone's motto that's running from the back is like, how many people can I catch? And I wasn't really counting. I was just trying to move well, and ended up having a pretty decent descent and finding a little bit extra momentum coming into the base of insult, where I'm pretty sure it was the new committee member Howard Solomon was standing at the end of the bridge, and I had just gotten up to Alex, or was really close to Alex at that point, and we were in like 18th or 19th was his estimate. So in that, whatever that is, a mile or a little bit more than a mile and a half, I guess, from cardiac to the base of steep ravine, I caught almost 20 people, 15. And then the good thing about the moors, is you can see people for days, right? And that's motivating. You're like, okay. And all those people are older and running significantly slower than you. And so I was like, well, 18, 19, maybe I can catch 10 people. Maybe I'm in 19th and I can catch 10 people. And that's ninth place. So started running pretty well. I ran insult hard and ran what people are calling like the insult to insult, the last little hill in the moors, which is a stinger, which is right here in the back of your photo, I think, in your backdrop. Yep, right there. And yeah, just kept moving. And I actually didn't get to Alex. He was moving a little bit better on this downhill than the first downhill. And I didn't get to Alex until after the moors, when we were in the grotto, kind of the stairs in that deep forested section, and got around him right before the turnoff to go left to the stile. And we ran a little bit together, and then went over the stile, and Cliff Lentz was in front of me, which surprised me because I knew he was in good shape and I thought he was going to be top 5. So I'm like, I can't be top 5 already. And then I took I guess we're getting to that sprint thing. I took a peek over my shoulder. Well, and the team competition is hotly contested and is an important streak we have going. and I noticed that there was it, and I don't know how, but out of the corner of my eye when we went over the style, I was like, that is for sure a Marin County Track Club runner that is just now coming over the style. And I knew it wasn't Eddie, but I knew, they have a bunch of, they're the youngest team for sure. So I knew it was a fast collegiate runner coming in real hot, probably running, second or third fastest time on the day. And I thought, man, I might be in 10th now that I just passed Alex and Cliff. And I was like, there's no way I want to lose this on the line. And so I just ran as hard as I could. And yeah, I mean, I sprinted really fast at the end. I don't know what the pace was, but it was a wicked clip for sure. And I left it all out there, and I was like, yeah, I'm either 10th, 11th, or 12th, and it ended up being 11th. But and it didn't end up affecting the team score because I think we won pretty handily by about 20 points over the Impalas. But you never know, right? Like it's like cross country scoring, so I really wanted to give it my all. And even though I didn't have necessarily the day I was hoping for, if I would to call it a mediocre day and I got 11th place and got another black shirt and the team title again, like that's a pretty good mediocre day. So, yeah, I was happy to hold off 21-year-old who just finished his D1 track season. He's probably like a 14-minute 5K-er and just lightning fast. And he had some Adidas trail super shoes on, so some plated shoes. So I don't know, out sprinted a young kid who had an advantage on his feet and many years younger than me. So I felt happy about that. That was definitely a highlight of the day. And you can always finish strong, and I think I'm good at doing that.
Yeah, for sure. No, I start getting nervous for that sprint at the end well before, like, even before hitting the style, just like who's around me, who am I gonna be sprinting with in the last, few hundred meters. Like that is a long straightaway. It just feels like it takes forever. A great summary of your race. So looking to the future, I mean, obviously I'm the single digit black shirts and continuing to get in the top few fastest times. But yeah, do you have any other, short or long-term Dipsea goals? And I guess just thinking about your place in the Dipsea community, like, I've enjoyed interacting with you on social media, but like, do you have any other hopes, dreams, or interests in just the Dipsea world?
Yeah, that's a great question. Think I would love to get involved. I'm a race director as well, and I know the Dipsea has a long history and the committee has been on there a long time, but I would love to get involved with just helping to keep the race moving forward in the future. And a big thing that I think matters to a lot of people in the community is trying to work with the permitting agencies to get some of these historic shortcuts back in play. And I actually know both the GGNRA permitting ranger and also Mount Tam State Parks ranger pretty well from working with permits in my race. So I think I could be an asset to the Dipsea committee and the race, and in helping to maybe get some of those back. But just on a larger scale, would love to be involved with the race. Obviously, I won't be running forever, but I hope to keep running for a long time. So I would love to give back and help to keep the race not only surviving but thriving, and moving more into the 21st century. I think there's a lot of things that they can do without necessarily um, tarnishing the history and the way it's been done, that could help streamline and make certain things efficient. So yeah, hopefully we can get involved in that element of the race moving forward at some point. And on a personal level, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the call, it's the only streak I care about. So as long as I'm healthy, knock on wood, I'll be there every year. I'll be there for number 17 next year, and we might as well keep going to keep the other streaks going. So I would love to get a seventh straight black shirt next year. I would love to see my team, the Pelican Inn Track Club, get our fifth straight team title. Yeah, keep all those things moving forward. And then, yeah, as you said, I think cracking into the top 10 would be another big personal goal of mine, and maybe even the top 5 in years to come.
Awesome. They sound like great goals, and yeah, I hope that folks, involved in leadership, hear what you have to say because you obviously have a lot to offer. So, um, thank you for all of that, Jeff. I'm gonna stop the recording now, but thank you for joining me.